Hello everyone, my name is Andrew Bosher, and today I want to show you guys how to make a dirty, steezy, talking Formant bass line with the Maelstrom synthesizer in Reason. The track that you just heard was something I just made for this tutorial real quick, but I want to show you guys how to make that type of sound from scratch, so let's get started. I do have a new project already opened up here, and I just copied and pasted the notes from the previous project over to here for time's sake. And in my new projects rack, I did already create a new combinator. So just right click and create a new combinator here. And in the combinator, right click and let's create our line mixer. We're going to have two different maelstroms going on here, but again, this isn't necessarily the right or wrong way to do it. I just want to show you guys a cool synth that I made, and you guys can make it too. So let's right click in the combinator and create our first maelstrom, and in the maelstrom make sure to right click and reset the device or initialize the patch depending on what version of Reason you're using. Let's go to the first oscillator section here, and let's start off by setting the waveform from sine to square times 4. So it'll be a square wave stacked on top of itself 4 times to give a nice cool effect of some phasing and or chorusing. Now set the octave of this to 2, and let's go to the second oscillator section here. Click on the square button to activate it, and let's set this one to electronic, which is a voice synth in the menu here. Set the motion to -6 so the waveform slows down how fast it goes through its cycle, but not too much, just very subtly. Set the index to about 23, and again, completely up to taste. That way it'll be a little bit past the starting point of the waveform to find a cooler part of the actual sound. And let's set the octave to 5. Now if we just took a listen to it right now, it wouldn't sound anything like we want, but it is a cool sound nonetheless. So if you want to use that, it's definitely available and it's really cool. Now let's go to the filter A and filter B section, and you can just leave them as low passes, and for this tutorial you can set the filter frequency all the way up. You can open up the filter, but again, completely up to taste. Go to the filter envelope section, and let's start off by setting the amount to 75, so that way we can start having the filter envelope affect the filter frequency. It's not going to affect it too much with the filter frequency all the way open, but it does a little bit. It does it a lot more when you start to close the filter frequency. But it does definitely do something even when the filter frequency is all the way open. Very subtle, but it does. So let's set the attack to about 16. And you can hold shift on the keys to get a specific number while you click and drag. Set the decay to about 57. Set the sustain to about 100, and the release to 45. That way it'll open up the filter, but it'll close it all at the same time relatively quickly. But again, completely dependent on where the filter frequency is here. Now let's go to the first modulator section, and let's set the first modulator A waveform to the saw wave, essentially just up, straight down. That'll make it more of a stab effect with what the modulation we're trying to do. Click on the one shot and sync, so that way we can sync up the timing of this modulation, and it will activate every time a note is triggered. Set the rate to about 2/4, and let's go to the pitch. Set this to about 34, and what that'll do is it'll start modulating the pitch, and it will start to give it more of a characteristic that you can use for cool effects, but you can also still carry a note depending on where this knob is here. Set the index to about 4, so just its real subtle modulation on the characteristics of the waveform, and the shift at about 4. Now let's go to the second modulator section here, mod B. set it to the same type of waveform as mod A, curve 2, and let's set the rate to 1/4. Oh, let's make sure to activate one shot and sync on this as well. But yeah, set this to 1/4. Set the motion to about -12, so that way we can start modulating how fast the waveform plays through, just very, very subtly. And now here you can set this to taste all the way up to 55, 63, whatever you like, but it won't really do much unless you start decreasing the filter frequency here. But again, completely up to taste. Now, if we take a listen to it, we'll start hearing a little bit more motion of what this synth will start sounding like, but it won't be talking just yet. But it does sound pretty cool. Alright, let's right click on this maelstrom and duplicate the device and tracks. Press tab to flip the rack, and let's route this main output of the second maelstrom to the second channel of our line mixer. Now, in the second maelstrom, essentially everything is the same in the modulator A and modulator B section, except for I'm going to set the shift to 0, and that way it'll give it a little more difference as far as what's going on. Let's go to the filter envelope section here and set this to 65, so it's not affecting the filter as much as the first maelstrom here. We can also set the filter modulator B section to anything we like here to taste, but again, completely up to you on how you want to do that. Let's go to the first oscillator in the second maelstrom, and let's set this oscillator to a tube slap oscillator, which is in the perk section here. In the tube slap synth, let's set the motion to -8, so it slows down a little bit. Let's set the shift to 8 so the Formant characteristics are a little higher, and let's actually set the oscillator to 4 instead of 2. On the second oscillator here, make sure to set this to a Formant saw, and that's what will make it start talking, and that will be in the voice section of the menu here. Before we go anywhere else, I have to let you know that you have to activate the route oscillator A to shaper to get it to filter A, and route the oscillator B to filter B to start getting filter effects if you want to start decreasing and increasing the filters. I should have said that earlier, but just make sure that you do that so that they're actually going through those filters. Now, at the Formant saw oscillator here, the motion should be around 8, and again, this is completely up to you in preference, and set the index to about 33. Just a little farther into the waveform than usual. We can set the octave to about 4, and set the shift to about 4 as well. Now, this is also completely optional, but I like using the shaper. So you can route the oscillator A to shaper as well as oscillator B, but let's just do oscillator A. Keep it as a sine wave, and let's go to about 31 for the shaper amount, just to give it a little more flavor. Now if we take a listen to it, we'll start hearing it talking, and this is where you can start doing whatever you want to it for taste. And just like that, we now have a talking Formant saw bass line that is in conjunction with a subtone essentially that gives it a lot more flavor and modulation. At this point, you're pretty much done and ready to go, but you can always add more effects to anything to make it your own. So if I wanted to, I could add a chorus and a flanger to the second maelstrom, and you know, just very subtle effects, a little bit of low feedback. I'll just turn down the modulation amount because I don't want the LFO, but if I just did that simple, listen to it now. So you can do pretty much anything you want to this to make it your own, and it sounds really cool. So that's pretty much it, guys. That's how you make a talking Formant baseline with Maelstrom and Reason. I'm going to save this as ABB talking Formant tutorial, and I'll make it available to you guys to download in below. So thank you so much for watching, and I really appreciate it. And please give me any comments, feedback, concerns, and I'd love to hear from you guys. We're all students in this, so I really appreciate you watching, and we'll see you next time.